2.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Welcome, people. Welcome to CDR Online. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all safe. My name's Tony Wachiku. And for the next 50 minutes or so, we've got a great guest for us. First online session. Does it sound Connolly? Give it up, people. Give it up,
Hey. Give it up for myself.
Yeah, so we'll be talking music production, career development, career trajectory, and essentially how to respond in these crazy times that we're in, but positive times nonetheless. If this is your first time, CDR is a community of music producers and artists, and we create safe spaces for people to grow and evolve as artists and producers, and share knowledge along the way. For more information, check us out on cdr-projects.com. But without further ado, please make my guest welcome, Liam, aka Does It Sound Connolly. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm really good. Really good to first of all, get acquainted with you again. We've got some history, but also, you've been on our radar for a while as someone who's, been making really interesting music and kind of grow, seeing you grow online as an artist and producer and someone who kind of like articulates your production in different ways. But let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about how, what were your first adventures into music making and production?
So I would have been about 17. I just had started going out clubbing really. And I was into metal basically before electronic music. And then I got dragged along. I felt.
Did you have the regalia to go with it as well?
Yeah, I mean, definitely all the big baggy black clothes and yeah, I mean, I had a giant like ginger afro at the time. That was my vibe.
Okay.
But yeah, that was kind of what I was listening to before electronic music, and then I got dragged. Well, not really dragged, but taken to a dubstep night in London when I was 17. I think it was potentially. I don't know I don't know exactly what it was. It was like a warehouse party, but I think maybe it had some affiliation to Ford, and yeah, that was kind of the first time that I'd heard anything like that, and I was just like, shit, I want to write some music like this.
Gotcha, great. So you went from power chords to power riffs.
Yeah.
Power electronic with digital riffs, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, from power chords to the big wobbles, I guess.
Yes,
the biggest wobbles I could find on GarageBand.
So was that literally, you're kind of, you're making kind of like, guitar-based music, quite heavy, distortion pedals in one respect, and literally put that to one side and just picked up a DAW, some samples, and away you go. Was it literally, out with the old, in with the new?
No, there was a bit of crossover, but I wasn't actually really writing metal. I was more into it. I mean, I did play electric guitar, and you couldn't really call them bands, but I did a few kind of like practice sessions with some mates when I was a teenager, but I never really kind of got stuck into writing metal. Was more of an avid fan. So this was probably my first music that I was actually trying to make. I had no idea what I was doing at all, just complete beginner.
Sure. So apart from going to Forward, can you think of what other clubs were you going to at that time that really kind of inspired your electronic music ecosystem?
Yeah, Fabric for sure. That was really where we went. So I grew up in Hertfordshire, just next to Watford. So we basically would get the train into London and go to Fabric, and then get the first train back in the morning. But we were going to like Dub Police kind of nights there, and yeah, that whole kind of Casper and Rusco sort of vibe. Kind of on one hand into that like quite intense, aggressive side of it, but also really into Digital Mystics and DMZ and that kind of earlier sound as well.
Cool.
So yeah, mainly Fabric, I'd say.
Yeah, great times. So at what point did you start articulate yourself and make kind of making music and kind of carving your identity as someone who was clearly interested in electronic music and wanted to pursue that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a gradual process. I got the bug kind of immediately, and then never really looked back. I like started kind of DJing at like friends' nights while I was still at school and at parties, and then kind of like putting on little local nights in like in our local town with just like our schoolmates basically. At that point I was just DJing off a laptop on the trackpad on Tractor, going out of the line out the headphone jack,
standard,
and then just cranking it up to the max. And I chose my university, which was Leeds, basically based on the music scene there. And I didn't study music there, but I was kind of always intending on trying to forge a career in music. So that was kind of going on while I was there right from the get-go, and got involved in helping promote some club nights, which is how I met Johnny, which is how we ended up meeting each other originally.
Dimensions Outlook Festival.
Exactly, yeah. So originally, he had a club night called Vagabonds in Leeds, and they were one of the founding partners of Outlook Festival, which then grew into Dimensions Festival. So I was kind of like there doing a bit of studying, but really music was the main focus. And then I ended up dropping out of uni in my second year, and just it was then music from then onwards.
Cool. So I guess, with all of us, at some point we have to kind of say to ourselves, let's give this music adventure a go for itself. When did you make that decision, and how did you do that? What did that look like?
Well, I guess there was kind of like there's two different like stages of that. I think there's like the committing and then making the rest of your life revolve around it, which is what I was doing for probably about 8-9 years, kind of working as a waiter and just doing jobs so that I could do music. I wasn't trying to do a career in anything else. And then eventually that transitioned into doing just music full time about a year ago. I guess there was like an in-between kind of period, because I then transitioned from working in restaurants to DJing in bars, playing basically like commercial music in Shoreditch. So not playing like anything that I would ever play in a club as Desert Sound Colony, but it pays really well actually, bar DJing, and that allowed me to just do that basically, and then have like all day free to write music. And then about a year ago I transitioned away from that into just doing Desert Sound Colony project. Okay, cool. I was going to say to our guest online, please feel free to get your questions together. The way it'll work is that if you put your questions in the chat, and then every 10-15 minutes or so I'll answer them, and then we'll have some time at the end where we'll open it up for questions. Is that cool? Yeah All right, cool. All right, so talk us through so waitressing, bartending, DJing at clubs, bars, kind of immersing yourself in music, albeit not exactly what you want to do, but you're still in kind of in the music space, which is great. Obviously you're building your setup at that time. So what did your initial setup look like, when you're in this kind of like world of kind of developing your identity as a producer, before you kind of decided, what, music's my thing? What did your setup look like, and how do you then take that setup to start making some serious music? Yeah, I mean, it actually hasn't changed that much since the beginning. I guess it was, just to begin with, just a laptop and some like computer speakers, and that was it. And then I got a MIDI keyboard, and then from there I got a sound card. And then eventually when I went to uni, like I remember first week I got a pair of KRK Rocket 8s.
Standard?
So standard, which that was obviously a life changer, because I'd gone from having no monitors to these absolute beefcakes, the woolly mammoths. And that was good. And I had those for about 8 years. And somewhere along there, around 5 or 6 years after that, I got a push 2 controller. So I'd been in Logic, GarageBand, and then Logic for the first kind of 7-8 years, and then I moved over to Ableton, and then got a push 2 controller, and then about a year and a half ago, I finally, or maybe 2 years ago now, I finally switched out the Rockets for some Adam A7X monitors. But other than that, it's still just the same. It's just a MIDI controller and some monitors.
Cool. So how have you know, how's your production process grown? I mean, what kind of things were you? I mean, you alluded to it, you know, earlier on, but how did what you're listening to inform the kind of productions that you've made, and how has that evolved?
Yeah, well, I guess when I was at uni, my taste started to broaden. I went from just going to Wire and the West Indian Centre to dubstep nights to finally like reaching out and listening to some house and techno, and that was probably quite largely to do with there's one of the promoters who started Dimensions and Outlook, Simon Scott. He also runs Exodus, DMZ, and Subdub in Leeds. And so that's kind of, those are the nights I was going to begin with, but then he started putting on more techno nights as well. And so I started going to those. He had a night called Modern Amusement, and he was booking people like Surgeon and Detman and Clock and kind of more Berghain artists. So I started getting into that kind of sound. And then a lot of the dubstep producers I was into started making house and techno music, basically. And or something kind of in between, some sort of hybrid. So it was a kind of like a slow move into that kind of 130 post dubstep into house and techno, and then just kind of super broad from then on in, all spectrums of dance music.
Got you. And do you have a particular, are you trying to explore a particular direction? I mean, what is your approach to writing and composition generally?
It's kind of become just party music, basically, in all different forms, and that kind of mirrors what I DJ as well. It's like really broad, like any BPM, and just kind of stuff to really get down to. I don't tend to play anything too chin strokey or serious. It's all just like good times, bangers.
Sure. No, good. But I guess, so you're always mindful of that, I guess, when you're writing, yeah?
Yeah, very mindful of the dance floor, always. I'm always writing with the dance floor in mind. Okay,
cool. So with that said, you've got something to show us, haven't you?
Yeah, got a new track from a couple of weeks ago. Let me share the screen. Okay, how's that looking? That's
looking good. It's looking very good. Yeah.
So you can see most of it here. I've just got drums over here at the top, then bass, and then effects below. Do you want to have should we have a little listen through?
Yeah, let's have a listen through, and then we'll dig a little deeper.
Do you want to listen to the whole thing, or do you want me to skip through some sections?
Let's listen to from the top. Yeah, how long?
All right. It is 5 minutes 35 seconds.
Oh, okay. We'll listen to a fair amount of it. Yeah, it'd be good.
Okay, cool. Also, just bear in mind this is pre-mix down.
Sure thing.
This one, because I mix my project separately in Logic. So yeah, this is the pre-mixed version of it. So everything's a bit tad dry. But yeah, here we go.
Could be a tad louder, I think. Turn up slightly, I think.
Yeah. It's going to get louder in a second.
That's all right then. Oh, there you go.
Take it to 0.
Cool. Nice.
Sweet.
Awesome. Yeah. I love there's lots I love about it. But yeah, let's get into it. Into it.
Sounds good.
So first things first. Before we start delving into the actual detail, are you very much a range view person when it comes to Ableton? Do you use session view at all in terms in the compositional process?
Very much a session view. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is what it looked like beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah, so I put my arrangements starting from the top, going down, and I actually do the full arrangement in session view, and then I play it in live into arrangement view.
Yep. Okay. Cool. And do you do? Is it dynamically? Going from session view to arrange view? Do you do any kind of effects or spinning things in on the fly as part of that process, or is it just straight up going through scenes?
Pretty much just going through scenes, but if I hear something that I just think quickly I'd like to just add a little something in there, then I will try and get it in there on the fly. But no, mostly I just try and kind of work that out beforehand. I'll have kind of automation within clips in the session view, and then they'll just kind of all get played in, and then I'll do a bunch more automation afterwards.
Nice one. Oh yeah, so let's go through it. Let's go through maybe the rhythm elements first.
Sure thing.
So before you dive in, so talk us through how what were you thinking when it came to the rhythm side of things, and how did you generate the initial 1 bar or 2 bar loop? What would you approach to that?
So it was definitely kick first. Yeah, I mean, let's get a little loop up going here and see what's going on. But this kick, pretty beefy.
Yeah.
And it's got so it's
the top, yeah.
It's got this little top.
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah.
And then just a 909.
Some sub standard. Yeah, cool.
And then submarine, which I use a lot. Don't know if wave submarine, which just adds sub frequencies underneath.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what's giving it the big extra beef underneath.
No, it's funny because I thought it almost was like an 808 909 layered, So that sub definitely gives what an 808 would give, I guess.
Yeah. You get a lot of control with it. Yeah, this is it without, and then with
hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Brilliant.
Definitely. I mean, obviously, I haven't heard it outside of this room, but I'm pretty sure in the club it's going to be pretty beastly.
it will do what it needs to do. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So kick, and it would have probably been. I would have probably had the snare next. Let's have a little listen. No, it wouldn't have been that. It would have been, it was this.
Okay, kind of perk vibes.
Yeah. So that is just this kind of little glitchy little thing. That's layered. That's doing exactly the same rhythm as the kick.
Nice. And nice. Would you been programming this using the push or another?
Yeah, this would have been the push, and then probably something like the tambourine next.
Nice.
Which has got a few different things going on.
Oh wow!
So I use Redux absolutely all the time. This is one of my favorite bits of plugins in Ableton. I got this trick off reading Object. Did a kind of tutorial on like his processes. He wrote basically a whole kind of mini booklet on it, and one of the things he talked about is using the Redux on percussion. And listen to the difference of these tambourines.
Yeah,
just bit crushing them nicely.
And there's some pitching going on in there as well, right? Yeah.
No, that's actually all just the Redux.
Okay.
That is just the bit crushing from the Redux doing that.
All right.
Then some spring reverb, and then Shaper Box, which has got nothing going on in it. Interestingly, that's
this time
there's nothing. But there's another one which is used for the second for this tambourine loop here.
Yeah.
Do you know this plugin, Shaper Box?
I know of it. Yeah, no, definitely know it. It's really useful.
So good. So you can draw in your own filter patterns. So this is like the tambourine and the breakdown.
Yeah. So when you're applying these additional plugins, you know, how early on do you do it? You know, so obviously you program the shaker pattern, the tambourine pattern in this case. Do you immediately go, what it really needs is Redux? What it really needs is, something to shape something to shape. Is that what you're thinking instantly?
A bit of both. A bit of both. To like stuff like Redux is just so quick and easy to stick on there, and it does change the timbre of the sound quite a lot. So I would tend to get that on quite early, but I do try and keep most of the mixing to the Mixdown project. But stuff like the Redux is Ableton only, and I mix in Logic, and it just kind of does exactly what I want. So
sure thing.
So there's a kick, Mind Strike, tambourine, and then after that claps. And then these snares.
Yeah, accent vibes.
Yeah, exactly. And then lastly, there's just this kind of little shaker thing that sounds a bit like a snare. So I've just got that in there as well. And then these little egg shakers doing a kind of little fill there.
Nice. And
there's this sound as well.
So lots of subtlety, lots of intricate elements.
Yeah.
In the mix, and is that your? I know it's obviously your intention, but is your intention to almost like, make it all about kind of main kick and snare and these kind of elements that kind of pepper people's experience. To create variety, to create these kind of subtle nuances.
Yeah, I mean that's something which people say about my productions a lot, and they often ask me like, it sounds like there's lots of tiny little things going on all the time, and they seem to like that about it. And that, this is really what's going on. Yeah, lots of layers, lots of different little elements, kind of stuff like this clap with a spring reverb on it at the beginning of each.
Nice.
Just things like this kind of peppered throughout the track. I like lots of little laser sounds and little reverses and stuff like this. I use a lot. Let's just hear the whole groove together. Sorry. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Plus, cool. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the next layer?
So next layer we've got is the bass. The track is really just drums and bass, to be honest, and it's riffing off kind of doing a few different things with a bit of a 303 sound. So we've got. So I used a Max for Live plugin called Skinnerbox Time Sting to sequence the bass line, which is great. It's a free plugin, actually. It's really, really good. And if I just go to the end and I turn it on, then we can see what it's doing. So it randomly generates patterns, basically. That's kind of it. The whole thing is based off randomly generating patterns, but you can choose different types, and it will kind of, I guess, it's got an algorithm which gives it a kind of slightly more acid-like patterns, whatever that might be.
Sure.
So I could kind of just flick through it. Let's turn it on here. I'm getting nothing. Getting nothing yet. But why? Why nothing? Should be playing, but it's not. Well, you can kind of see what's going on here. It's basically just generated a pattern here. I've kind of messed around with, got gate, velocity, octave, and then you can just generate the pattern, convert it, and it's converted it into this pattern here. So let me take it off now.
There you go.
There we are. Why is that not doing it?
There you go.
Yeah, for some reason when I'm soloing the whole bass channel, it's working, but not that individual one. Well, that's okay. So it's a simple pattern. I think it's just a one barrer. Let me take off these other ones then. And then really kind of what's going on is a bit of the shaper box. Yeah, so that is, it's got like this kind of rewinding time function going on here. So let me take actually everything off, because this is really, the track is this bass line. So this is what it sounds like with nothing. And then with the shaper box, it's got a bit of kind of crush. So this is every bar. It's adding these elements, a little bit of filtering, and it's with these it's kind of rewinding and playing the notes twice sometimes. So
got you. Got you, just from some extra modulation, extra shaping.
Exactly, yeah. And then I've got Echo Boy giving a bit of chorus.
Nice, big difference.
Yep. Then Phase Mistress, kind of adding a bit more kind of chorusy. Well, phase basically. Over 2 bars. So that's a little bit more kind of texture. And then I've got this Echo Boy that's got another chorus on it, but if I remember rightly, okay, so at the moment it's doing nothing because I'm using an LFO which is mapped to the mix of the second Echo Boy. And that's coming up over 8 bars. It's just rising and adding this kind of reverby effect.
Sure. Nice.
So and it's adding a little delay.
Great. That's great.
And then so it's just ramping up basically. And then I've got a shaper, which is like the LFO. These are Max for Live utility plugins that are really, really great. Use them all the time. And this one is mapped to so this is mapped to the mix of the first Echo Boy. Yeah, so that's just kind of doing this pattern here over 2 bars.
Got you.
Oh, actually, you know what's going on here? No, it's mapped to cutoff of. This is mapped to the filter cutoff.
Okay, nice.
And then another one of them is mapped to the envelope. So with those all plugged in, that's why
Got you.
we're getting all this kind of modulation on the cutoff and the envelope.
So it's great. So again, as part of the kind of compositional process, you obviously create the 303 melodic element first, and then do you immediately go, you know what I need to do is this needs to evolve, or this needs to, I need to then add the chorus, add the phaser? You know, is it something you do instinctively, or do you just sit on the 303 melody for a while, and as you're listening to the track and pondering on it, then you then think, you know what, I need to evolve this over time. I need to shape it over time.
Yeah, in this case, I was definitely, from the get-go, I was thinking, I want to do a bunch of kind of interesting LFO and shaper automation. I want it to be growing and changing, and it basically continues to kind of do that throughout the track. So it starts off doing that, and then it moves to a different pattern. Yeah.
Nice.
Which I would have done by just copying and pasting the first pattern, but then I would have changed. Yeah, it's like a technique of like changing one note and then copying and pasting it over, and changing another note and then copying and pasting over a bar. And so you end up with kind of 4 bars of variation.
Yeah.
And then got another channel, which is, again, it's a copy of the first one, but it's a different pattern. And it's just it's a bit more for, I don't know, party time. The first one was a bit more intro, and then once we get going here after the second drop, kind of let loose. And there's also a automation to turn it from saw to square wave.
Okay.
As well. So it goes from to
got you. There you go.
Yeah, and then
bit more depth. Yeah, a bit better depth in that section. Yeah.
And all these things are kind of they've got different automation going throughout them. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. Lots of changing and warping with that.
That's awesome. So again, just getting back to, you know, it's interesting how you're shaping and evolving as, you know, it's a very intricate part of the compositional process, right? Do you know what I mean? So when you're developing that, you know, I just wanted to get this clear, because obviously, you know, we all have different approaches to this. But for me, it really feels like it's a really strong part of your, you know, production process. You know, even though when you're experiencing it on the dance floor, you know, it's like there's lots of detail in there, in something which is essentially a killer acid riff, but there's lots of subtlety in there, lots of variation in there.
Yeah, I think I would never have like more than 8 bars without something changing in a track. I'm always trying to add the next bit and kind of never repeat itself and keep it evolving constantly. I just think, if you want to make an impact with a track, that's kind of a good way to do it.
Cool.
I'd have some elements that stay the same, but there's always something so you get that kind of what works about a kind of a house or techno or just dance floor track is the looping. That is often what makes it work. So you do want elements of that are really staying the same and keeping you in the groove, but also stuff that just keeps the interest the whole time.
Most definitely. Okay, that's great. And then the other thing I wanted to say before we move to the next element is that obviously this bass line, you know, because it's got 2 roles, right? So it's almost like an acid bass line, but also it's the melody as well. Do you know what I mean? So,
exactly.
So of course I'm guessing you were really mindful of that, you know, in terms of your compositional, you know, when you're developing that compositionally. The kick drum's very low and sub, that's taking care of the low end. This is almost taking care of the kind of like, you know, the higher bass register, as well as having this kind of melodic area for the, that's what I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, cool. All right, so let's move to the next element then.
Yeah, so there's kind of a few other bass elements in this. There is, so we've got this here. Let's see if this works. Yeah, so that's just a little sample. And there's another one here. Yeah, just another sound. And then this. Yeah, that's another sample as well.
There you go, subtles.
Yeah, so there's just a few of those all kind of playing together to create this. Sorry. Oh, and there's one more. There's the Hoover Bass as well, which is just in the breakdown.
Okay.
Which then when I mixed it down, I've actually kind of done more with that. Sometimes you end up writing a little bit more in the mixed down version, but in this one, it's currently just in there. So the whole of the bass together is...
Nice.
And that's kind of it. Oh yeah, I guess we got the granch as well.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah, so that's the bass, and then down to the effects. There's a few different kind of risers and stabs and things. We got this guy, not working in solo for some reason. Oh, I know why. It's because the audio movers plugin is on the master. And
there you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's just solo the effects. So yeah, so we got that. That's a little delayed stab. And it's got just some send from a delay send that I've got a space echo.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got this kind of laser sound at the end. So that's
nice.
that sound. We got these stabs here, which are dun 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 dun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
They've just got an echo bar in them. They're just creating some kind of background interest, and then I just bounce down a tail of those stabs, and that's what's coming in here.
Got you. It's almost like a pre-roll kind of thing. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And is that little vocal snippet in there?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So that's just I'm really into transitions. I'm always got my mind on the transitions. I think that is often what makes the difference between a kind of a unpolished and polished track is the transitions.
So it's almost like a really strong cue points, reference points, right? Because I think what's interesting about your production is that there's lots of it's great, it's fantastic, really nice colors and atmospheres, and it's almost like a composite, but the rises almost underpin you and give you this sense of arrangement, and this kind of strong focus alongside this kind of dotted of colors and subtlety. It's great.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going for. And yeah, we got these little vocals here, the tonights. Actually, it's saying more like "come on." And there's another one here.
Yeah. Okay. Gated. Yep.
Yeah, they're gated, and kind of gated. Got a shaper box on there as well, doing some filtering. And then lastly, there's a couple more. There's this riser here, which is just doing sounds kind of like a Formula One car coming past. Something. And then we've got these blah 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 sounds.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you decide what elements to use? I mean, is there a process of just in terms of how you used, say, the the acid machine, the sequencer, to just generate random tones? Do you apply that style to, say, selecting these sounds? You just drop sounds in to see how they fit, or do you think about, okay, what this really needs is a kind of a bubble sound, or
I've got templates basically that I've made, and I start each track with a template that I've made already, and that's got a bunch of drum racks with different effects hits, and kind of every 6 months or so I'll make a new template. And so generally kind of little effects hits, the little bleep bloops and things are kind of just coming from a rack that I've just kind of gone through my samples 6 months ago and stuck 30 little bits of effects in.
Awesome.
So I'm just messing around on the push and go done.
That's great. So in terms of that process of harvesting elements, I guess do you make time purposely to kind of generate those racks with those sounds?
Yeah, totally. Very much so. Yeah, I've got basically, whenever I start a new project, it's got a template with kind of 10 different drum racks of kicks, hi-hats, snares, percussion, etc. And so I think that's one of the most important bits of songwriting is getting as many obstacles out of your way, getting as many things that are going to stop you from just jamming out of your way. And so if you can create a scenario where you go, I want to make a track, and you open Ableton and just bam, you're making the track, then ideal. So that's what I'm trying to go for, basically.
Sure thing. Got you. Nice. Great. We had a question just to drill back a little bit. Can we have a look at the acid sequencer again?
Yeah, for sure. I'll be able to make it work this time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. So if I drag this over to the 303, then hopefully if I solo this, we're gonna hear it. You hearing that, Tony?
I am indeed.
Okay, great.
Are you guys hearing it?
I'm sure they will be, yeah. So if we go back to the Skinner box, let's go. There we are.
Nice.
So yeah, so it's a random pattern generator sequencer, and it's, I guess, yeah, at this stage we can generate a new one. So you just press the smiley face, boom, and it gives you a new pattern.
That's it.
Another one. And you can change kind of whatever you wanted it. You can change. It's got a bunch of different kind of algorithms. So try this one. And then you can turn off some of the notes. You can bring this up. These are actually what note it is. And then once you find one that you like, or you can modify, you can also kind of like move it to the side or bring it up scales. Then you just do you just press convert, or do you drag the convert? What do you do? Convert. It's not converting. Can't remember, but
no worries. But it does work. It's great.
It does work. Yeah.
And then alongside that, which acid? What did you use to generate the acid tone?
So that is So that is TB Lite. This wasn't Ableton built in. I can't remember what pack it came from. I can find out very quickly though. From Retro Synths.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Sounds great. It's really accurate. Really.
Yeah, it's got a few different ones. It's got TB Lite. You actually probably can't hear that. If I bring this back to the master. There we are. So it's got those three different ones.
Nice. And then in addition, if we could review the shaper.
The shaper box.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a beast to kind of go through in too much detail, but if we look at let's actually look at the tambourine. So let's solo the drums and take these off. Okay, so what it's doing is, so what Shaperbox is it looks at the incoming audio, and if we press play, you'll see the audio playing across it. So, so that is, you can actually see where the kind of the transients are, and then it's got a bunch of different sections, one of them being a filter. You can draw in the actual filter by hand. You can say like, I want to do it like that, or whatever you want really. And then it's got a bunch of other modules.
Great.
Low, crushing, width, volume, panning, and you can just go to town and create these like really interesting shapes.
And it's all in series, right?
All in series?
Yeah. So it's one effect after the other. So it's filter going into a crusher.
No, you can put them in any. You can put them in any order that you want.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then it's got a bunch of patterns as well that they've already done. So you've got volume here. You can use it for side chaining, or you could have a different bunch of rhythms, and then you can mess around with it. It's got a bunch of different patterns that users have saved that you can try out as well. It's a really great plugin, actually. Like, so many times I have just thought, I just want to just draw it in, whatever it is. I don't want to have to like try and program something. I just want to draw it in, and so this really kind of does that perfectly. So I use it a lot.
No, so we'll share the links to all the plugins that we're talking about afterwards.
The other
Brilliant.
thing is it's got 3 bands. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, so you can like have a filter on this mid-range band, but then you can have a different filter for the lows and a different filter for the highs. And yeah, you can apply that to everything. You could just put some bit crushing just on the top. You can use it. I use it a lot if you want to do like add width to something. You can add width to just the top end of a percussion loop and keep the low ends mono, and yeah, kind of all that sort of thing. It's really good for.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So so 2 things. One, you've got to this stage now, and you said that you obviously mix. So you compose and generate ideas and build a track in Ableton, but then you export it to Logic for mixing. Yeah. What's the reason behind that?
So there's quite a few different reasons, but one, I mean, the reason I export it to Logic is because I prefer the layout and the look of Logic when it comes to mixing audio. I much prefer Ableton when it comes to creative ideas, but I just like the look of how the audio looks in Logic, and the kind of, yeah, just the setup, having the mixer underneath, and I don't know, it just works really well for me personally.
Sure thing.
And other reasons are I like to work just in audio when it comes to the mixing. I find it way easier to see what's going on when, I mean, I can just show you what the Mixdown project looks like. Oh, why do I not have the mix? That's weird. But yeah, I should be able to find this quickly.
Sure thing.
Ricky Tikki Totally mix. There we are. Let me show you what it looks like, and maybe I'll see that it's kind of easier to see what's going on.
Got you.
Just kind of so many different colors and things going on, and
indeed. And is that something that you've done, all the time?
No, I moved over to doing this about 4 years ago, and it was the biggest game changer. Aside from moving from Logic to Ableton, this was easily the biggest shift in an improvement in my production came when I did this. So this is what the Mixdown project looks like, and
nice.
It's just, to me, like you've got the long blocks of audio. I can just kind of see exactly what's going on. Got the mixer down here. It just seems really, really clear to me.
And of course, and I guess also because it's audio, you're committing to it now. Yeah. So you're just focusing on mixing, no more editing, no more. I mean, apart from editing elements of audio, but no programming. Programming's done.
Exactly.
It's all about mixing now and balancing.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And also, the first step of starting the new project is that after I've dragged everything in and put them into their groups, I bring the audio level of everything down to 0 and start from scratch. And so this is that's the game changer. Like you can do this, you can re-export into the DAW that you're using or whatever, but I promise you that everyone watching that if you start a new Mixdown project and bring everything to 0 and start mixing again from 0 back to max, you will improve your Mixdowns tenfold.
Definitely. I mean, I'm glad you've mentioned that. It's something that I talk about a lot when I host OTB out the box sessions, because there's something really almost like almost quite zen, quite because it's almost like I've done the track now. Track's done. It's composition's over. Fiddling over. Geeky subtleties over. Now it's about just focusing on the mix, and it's almost like a completely different mindset.
Yeah, 100%.
Different approach to the track. You almost like generate a completely different relationship with it, right?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I think it's really important to get into the practice of finishing as many tracks as you can, and an important part of that is creating this kind of boundary where you say the writing is done, it's mixing time now. It's done, I'm not going back. And it's such a faff to go back that you just won't do it. That's also one of the good things about going to different DAWs is it's even more of a faff to go back and do anything. So it's going back and just mixing each element in as you go, you just will get so much of a better outcome, and you'll get so much more care on each element.
And I mean, obviously it varies from project to project, but do you have like, kind of an average time that you spend mixing on a particular track? Is there like an average time?
Yeah, I'd say it's about probably 2 hours.
Okay. So quite quick then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Yeah, sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's longer, but on average, about 2 hours.
And do you work with a template in the same instant as if you?
Yes, I do. Yeah. So the template is this, and I would really, really recommend also doing a template for mixing down. So I have like a 40 channel project that's already set up, and each channel has Shep's omni-channel with an SSL channel on there at the front, and then Decapitator, which I use on pretty much every channel, and the Waves Renaissance EQ.
Cool.
And yeah, like again, just having it all set up, you just drag all the audio in and just boom, you're mixing. It's like, yeah, it would be. I would never want to do another mix down if every time I had to insert all these plugins in every single time.
Definitely. And also it just creates a workflow. I think that one thing that's really good about having a template and having specific tools that you work with, you get to know them and you get to really understand how they work, right? As if it was a dedicated piece of hardware or a dedicated desk or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so we're almost done, but I've still got a couple of questions for you, if that's all right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm in no rush.
This is brilliant. So where are you at now in terms of what would you do with this track now? Is it for what's your thinking once it's done and dusted?
I'm going to put it out on Holding Hands.
Okay, and for those of us who don't know Holding Hands, what is Holding Hands?
That is my record label. Yeah. And I'm a big proponent of people having their own record labels. I think it gives you a lot of power over your own career. And I've seen a lot of massive positive in my life, but also in a lot of other friends' lives who've kind of gone on to start labels and found that to be a huge boon in their career. And I'm kind of at the stage now where I kind of can't really imagine releasing on anyone else's label anymore.
I mean, it's seamless, right? It's your music, and you're best placed to give it the love and attention it needs when it comes to releasing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how's that been? I mean, in the same way that you've also got your composition head, your beats making head, then you've got your mixing head. Do you then go into your kind of like production manager, label manager kind of heads? You have to separate them out. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I probably spend just as much time thinking and working on stuff on the label as I do with productions, because I kind of act as a bit of a producer in an old school sense and an A&R in an old school sense, and we're the artists on the label. So I'm quite heavily involved in a lot of the production of their stuff. So yeah, and I do the reissues on there as well. So yeah, it's just generally a lot of plates being kind of spun at the same time.
Most
definitely. It's a lot of fun.
So for tips for producers and artists who want to kind of navigate the artistic side of your music as well as the kind of administrative side, what tips can you give for people in terms of managing both sides?
Make yourself a planner, a schedule. Make yourself an Excel spreadsheet and plan out your days hour by hour, and at the beginning or the end of each week fill in the next couple of weeks and have set times to do things. So I've got 2 hours in the morning to do some sort of major task, then I've got an hour to do emails after lunch, and then everything's broken down, and I try to not break things into different slots because it's very difficult to not just get distracted all the time by all the different elements and not get anything done.
Gotcha. So I guess you apply the same methodology to your composition as well. So you almost give yourself set times to work on stuff. So yeah. Okay, cool.
I mean, Once I had a baby, it just I had to get militant on the time.
Yep, know that one.
Yes,
indeed. And how does this then extend into you kind of expanding into new territories in terms of creating opportunities for, your kind of learning series, and you kind of expanding into then sharing your knowledge online? Where did the idea come about and how have you applied that?
Yeah, well, so virus happened, as everyone's aware, kind of clubs had been put on hold, and I just thought right from the get. I mean, it was just kind of, I just happened to actually see that Beardy Man had started a Patreon. I think my brother-in-law basically was like, "Oh, he's done this. You should do something like it." And I was like, "That is actually a great idea." And I just thought, "Oh my God, there is actually, as far as I'm aware, nobody in the underground dance music world that we are kind of circulating in. There's actually just nobody doing this." And I thought, I can't believe it, but there actually, I don't think there really was. Like, there's a million EDM producers doing it, and but as for like artists that I'm kind of interested and inspired by, no one was doing anything like this. So I thought I just better jump on it just immediately and see what happens. And yeah, kind of, I don't know why. I think maybe because touring has been such a massive part of people's life, they just haven't had time to kind of dedicate to doing something like a tutorial website. But yeah, I jumped in really early on, and I think that kind of made all the difference. People saw it and got involved, and I've really enjoyed doing it. It's actually been so good for learning myself.
Got you.
Yeah. Because I've ended up like having to do tutorials, and then you end up going deeper and deeper into stuff in a way that you'd never really considered. Normally it's just like, all right, kind of do it a bit like this. But in the process of trying to learn it in a way that you can teach it, I've ended up learning so much more about production in general. It's been amazing.
Yeah, and how you articulate ideas. Because I guess a lot of the time when you're doing it for yourself, you're doing it for yourself, right? Do you know what I mean? But when you have to share that with another human being, suddenly you've got to really be clear about how you communicate. Sometimes the simplest things, but also the most complicated things. And there's an art and craft in that as well, right? So
yeah, I mean that's the best way to learn. It's the best way to learn is to teach somebody something, isn't it?
Oh, for sure, definitely.
And God, the amount of things. I mean, it's just myriad. The million things that over the years of production I've learned and completely forgotten because I've just found a cool thing and then lost it.
Sure.
And I think with this teaching, it's starting to stick a lot more. Also, another quick thing that I've just started doing recently that I cannot believe I haven't been doing for my entire career is at the end of each project, I save any kind of interesting synth or sample or whatever I make, I save it into like my user library in Ableton. So now I've started to build up a whole kind of collection of interesting
archive. A repository, yeah, kind of thing.
Yeah, and awesome. That's been great already. And I'm kind of looking forward to kind of a year down the line, I'm going to have 100 of my own synths and patches and stuff made. And yeah, so I would really recommend anyone who isn't doing that to, at the end of each project, just save anything good you've done, so you can reuse it.
Awesome. So what's next with you, release-wise? Post-COVID thoughts. What are you thinking?
So I've got a record that's just coming out. It's getting sent out this week, which is on a new label. I started with Dr. Banana, Alec Falconer, and Harry Wells, called Sock It To Me, which we had a party under that name, and now we've started a label. So me and Alec have done a collab first release on that.
Nice.
And then after that, I'm going to put out this track and a few others on Holding Hands, and then probably just stick to putting stuff out on Holding Hands for a while. There's a lot of gigs that need to be done for sure. Lots of stuff that's been put on hold. So hopefully, end of the year, beginning of the year, start getting back in the clubs, which will be awesome. I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that.
Most definitely. Some people are a little bit more eager than others at the moment. But yeah. But listen, Liam, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and your generosity. So for the next hour or so, we're going to have Open CDR, which is now called OPN, DJ set of music that has been submitted. So enjoy. Thanks again, Liam. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. Yeah, that was really great. Nice one, man.